In American politics, there are rules, and then there are the stories people fear might break them. When Donald Trump announced his campaign for 2024, it reignited a familiar debate. Not just whether he could win, but something deeper. Could he stay in power longer than the Constitution allows? Could Trump somehow get a third term? For some, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. For others, it sounds entirely possible. And with the way things have gone in recent years, even the most unlikely ideas no longer feel off the table. Let's start with the facts. After Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected to an unprecedented 4 terms, Congress decided enough was enough. In 1951, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution was ratified. Its language is clear. No person shall be elected to the office of the President more than twice. Donald Trump has now served 1 term from 2017 to 2021, lost re-election, and then came back to win again in 2024. That makes him the first president since Grover Cleveland to return to the White House after a break, but it also means one thing is certain: his 2nd term must be his last. There's no exception for non-consecutive presidencies. The law doesn't care if the terms were back-to-back or separated by years. What matters is that he has now been elected twice, and under current law, that's the limit. But as with so many things in politics, the law is only one piece of the story. Because while the Constitution may be clear, power doesn't always follow the rules. Over the last few years, a wave of speculation has surfaced, not just about Trump, but about whether any president could bend the system to stay in power beyond their legal limit. Some theories are absurd, others less so. Could a sitting president delay an election by declaring a national emergency? Could they refuse to leave office, claim mass fraud, and use that chaos to remain in control? Could they run a hand-picked successor, a loyal figurehead, and effectively govern from behind the curtain? There's also the idea of changing the rules entirely. The Constitution can be amended, though it requires a supermajority in Congress and ratification by 38 states, a political mountain that's nearly impossible to climb. But it has happened before, and the only reason it seems unthinkable now is because no one has seriously tried. Still, the question lingers, not because we expect a rule breaker, but because we've already seen what happens when norms start to slip. Look beyond America's borders, and you'll find plenty of examples where leaders push past limits once thought unbreakable. In Russia, Vladimir Putin swapped roles with his prime minister to get around term limits, then changed the system to stay longer. In Turkey, Erdogan transitioned from prime minister to president and reshaped the government around himself. And in China, Xi Jinping simply removed term limits altogether. Even the United States isn't immune to this temptation. Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected 4 times because no law at the time stopped him. He served through the Great Depression and World War II, and many Americans saw him as irreplaceable. But after his death, the country decided that no one should hold that kind of power again. The rules were written to prevent it, but as history shows, rules only work when everyone agrees to follow them. So let's come back to the question. Can Trump get a 3rd term? Legally, no, not without a constitutional amendment. But power doesn't always need legality. It needs influence, it needs loyalty, and it needs a population willing to accept what they're told or desperate enough to believe there's no other choice. Would Americans accept a president who refused to leave? Would Congress have the will to act? Would the courts hold the line? Or would the system simply hesitate, long enough for the damage to be done? The truth is, democracies rarely collapse in a single moment. They erode, slowly, subtly, through exceptions, technicalities, and the silence of people who should have spoken up. Donald Trump cannot legally get a 3rd term. But if the right crisis emerged, the right moment of confusion, or just the right excuse, history tells us we shouldn't dismiss the impossible, because if it ever did happen, it wouldn't look like a coup. It would look like business as usual. So, what do you think? Could it happen here? And if it did, who would stop it? Let us know in the comments. Because this question isn't just about Trump, it's about how far a system can be pushed before it breaks.